We're beginning today's focus, and we're going to talk about Azerbaijan today. Our focus meetings they focus on different countries, and today's focus meeting is going to be about cultural diversity in contemporary film, the importance of integration and inclusion in professional filmmaking in Azerbaijan. First of all, I'd like to say a few words about our media prize, which is about materials focusing on cultural diversity, and this is our main focus, to involve people from different nationalities, different ethnic and religious groups. And this year, I'd like to remind you that this year we have a new initiative, and we have selected an international jury that has chosen 8 projects which are finishing their projects related to cultural diversity, and each country can support their nominees. The award ceremony will be live at 8 o'clock on December 10th in Tbilisi, according to Tbilisi time. So any opportunity, we welcome to help the different projects from different countries to complete their programs. We're going to show you a little video and then begin our focus meeting.
A new stage. In Cologne, an international jury selected the 8 best projects with cultural, ethnic and religious diversity themes from the 6 Eastern Partnership countries. Armenia, Separated, Azerbaijan, Next Station, Belarus, Road to Slovakia, Moldova, Lost in Moldova, Ukraine, Dudu and Lala, Georgia, Prisoner from Dagestan, The Lion That Guards the City, Biteshuga. Starting 1st November on the ADAMI Media Prize website ADAMIMediaPrize.eu, you will be able to view all of the projects, and from 10th November you will be able to support their success both materially and creatively. On 10th December, the authors of the winning projects will present their work on live TV to demonstrate the uniqueness of their projects, win monetary prizes and seek financial and creative partners. Support cultural, ethnic and religious diversity.
Вас не слышно, Нелли.
We can't hear you, Nelly.
Ой, по-моему, меня не было слышно.
Now it's okay.
Да, сейчас слышно. И я хотела бы представить в первую очередь нашего модератора. Это Дорота Roszkowska, кинопродюсер, сценарист.
This is Dorota Roszkowska, film producer, scriptwriter, tutor, and expert. She is the founder of the ARKANA film studio in Warsaw. Our experts today are Rufat Hasanov, who is a award-winning film director and head of the cinema department at the Ministry of Culture of the Republic of Azerbaijan. If you would like to add something about yourself, please do so when you begin speaking. And finally, Teymur Hajiyev, an Azerbaijani film director, producer, and Locarno Filmmakers Academy alumnus, known for the film Towards Evening from the Cannes Film Festival 2020. So I'd like to welcome everyone to our meeting, and I'd like to give each of you the chance to introduce yourselves before we begin our discussion.
So maybe I will start as a moderator with introducing myself. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Adami and Nelly, for organizing this meeting. It allows the meeting on the unexpected distance in the European continent, which is not so obvious in the common understanding that Europe spreads from Atlantic Ocean in the west till Caucasus and the Caspian Sea in the east. So it is good to have a discussion on this distance. I'm based in Warsaw, and Nelly in Tbilisi, right? and our guest, Teymur and Rufat in Baku.
Yes, we are.
So I was in Baku 4 years ago for the occasion of Doku Baku Film Festival, and it has made a great impression on me, I must say. Shall we go on?
Yes.
So before starting the discussion on cultural diversity, I would like to introduce more our guests, starting with you, Teymur.
Yes.
Your short film Toward the Wind was in the Semendela Critique in the Festival of Cannes last year, and your other short films were screened and at the international festivals in Rotterdam and in Tampere. So. I congratulate you with the fact that the local stories come to the international market and are awakening big interest. You have studied in the US and then in Locarno Film Academy, right? And
yeah, but in Locarno it was short. You know, it was a summer academy basically. It was not like a long thing. No, it was a short. A week or something. So literally, I don't have any formal cinema education. That's how it goes.
But you have you are back when back in Azerbaijan. You have established the film production company, and you started to produce and direct the short films.
Yes, short films and documentaries.
Could you tell us what was the idea behind your interest in the films, and what are you working on now, both as a director and as producer?
Actually, it was not like an idea. It's more like a vocation that something evokes in you and drags you towards the thing that you have never planned and you never expected to do, such things, such as art, namely precisely cinema. I cannot say that it was planned or thought out idea or something like that, but it started slowly through producing, first of all, you know, like more or less working from the client side. When you work with ad agencies, you know, being on a set of an ad, shooting places, and then you order the ad, you commission them, you see the scripts, and then you edit them, and then you talk to people who do that, then you produce, and it's like a snowball in a very slow motion, but it took a few years, you know, step by step, realizing that it's dragging me inside it, and it's kind of a thing that I want to pursue. It was not like a planned or, you know, well thought idea.
I see. So you are combining production of ads and your own creative projects, right?
Yes, sometimes, of course, we need to have some financial, let's say, profits in order to survive. So then we do commercial project, not only ads, but it might be documentary films, or I don't know, commissioning like TV series or something like that. It's basically, yes, I can say that in order to be able to keep your independence, let's say, you have to do commercial work as well, and we try to keep our independent project independent and commercial projects commercial, let's say.
But can I summarize that you are deeply rooted in the Azerbaijani film market and film industry?
That would be too loud to say that, because we don't have neither industry nor let's say, the big amount of even commercial ones, but we maybe, I would rephrase it like this, that maybe we will be counted as pioneers later on, maybe after 10, 20 years, 30 years, when we will have finally the industry, all the things, trade unions, associations, etc., lots of cinemas. And then someone, the researchers of future will say that there used to be such guys, crazy people who just shot films on their own 30 years ago, and they were, acting in a total desert without any industry, without any proper legislation or support mechanisms, or like that. So they just did it. And the reason is unknown. Why did they do that? Nobody knows, but they did that. So I would say like that.
Oh, thank you for rephrasing it properly. And we are lucky then to meet you at this stage, at this very pioneer's beginning. Okay, so thank you for this introduction. Yeah. And I would like to move to Rufat Hasanov. Your films were acclaimed internationally, as I have read. Chameleon was nominated to Golden Leopard at Locarno Film Festival. That's right. And Island Within won the award for the best director at Sarajevo Film Festival. You have studied in US as well, and then in Moscow. And you established when back in Azerbaijan, you also established your own company, Coyote Cinema Production. Could you tell us what was the reason for you to move back to Azerbaijan from Russia after such a long, and the US, such a long journey, and establishing your own company?
Thank you for inviting me. Well, I'm going to try to be very precise and laconic. The reason why I guess I moved back to Baku was because as a director, what are you most influenced by, or what is your sort of like, what is the catalyst and motivator of your stories? It's something driven by your experience, by maybe your roots. So I would say that because I firmly believe that stories told, especially for cinema, have to be personal. I would say must be personal. The only place where I feel I could gather this sort of metaphysical strength and power to tell the stories is my home country, is my homeland. And that's why I moved back, and no regrets.
It's very clear and very powerful what you have said. Thank you for this explication. And Mr. Hasanov, you are now the head of film department at the Ministry of Culture of Azerbaijan. Could you tell us what are the goals of your mission?
There is this great film that I assume a lot of the participants today have either seen or heard of. It's a film by Alexei Balabanov called Brat, and there is a quote that says "Что русскому хорошо, немцу смерть," which is translated, whatever is good for the Russian is the opposite, like death for a German, so to put it. So I guess the reason why, the only thing that I can more or less say at this stage is that Teymur's sentiment that he just shared recently about the lack of industry and lack of legislature and what's not. So this is, I guess, why and what we're busy with. It's proving Teymur wrong. So that's to put it a little bit as a joke, you know, in a joking angle, because yes, it sounds, of course, very romantic, and I mean, I consider myself part of this, you know, sort of like romantic new wave, along with Elmar, who is taking a shower right now, and all our, like, you know, comrades in arms. Yes, it's, of course, it sounds very romantic that, oh, back then there was nothing, and then we started this whole thing. Because, frankly, Teymur's films that I personally participated in, and my films that Teymur participated in, and we tried to sort of help each other and blah, blah, blah. Yes, of course, it sounds very romantic that, like, in 30 years, they will look back and say, how did, in this desert, how did they make? But I frankly don't share that sentiment, because it's a normal process for me. It's a process within the historical context that happened. I mean, of course, there was, you know, this giant Soviet Union, which then collapsed, and planned economy was replaced with market economy, and movie theaters were closed down, and then there was the war, and people didn't really have the mental or emotional capacity to go to films, because there were a lot more serious problems and socio-political cataclysms. And so after this whole period of time, of course, it takes time to sort of revive and build a brand new industry. So I think it's just part of this historical context that, and I personally feel responsibility that you know, very similar processes happened in any given country. What, like,
Sure.
wasn't the German film industry completely worn down after World War II? Didn't Fassbinder or Wim Wenders make, you know, low budget films shot you know, as TV films, but they kept on going and, you know, getting international acclaim and winning Berlin and other film festivals. So, I mean, this is just how it is. Today, I heard a very interesting thing about, I believe it was either Prague or Warsaw. There was this installation, like a public art installation somewhere downtown in one of those cities, and it was like this sign of eternity, right? And so and there was a tank and a tractor, you know, going around this. So, you know, it's all like biblical mythology and everything. So, like, you know, there is a time of an uprisal, and then there's a time of a downfall. So in that sense, I truly believe that we're living a, you know, sort of in a historical time period where we're about to step into the period of sort of renewal and rejuvenation.
Yeah, I can say that not so long ago, the Polish film industry went through such a crisis after collapse of socialistic system, and then a big crisis. And then the new cinematographic law was adopted, and the Polish Film Institute, and the new life slowly began. So certainly these are the historical moments. And again, so we are meeting in the historical moment with the two big pioneers, because yes.
May I ask a question? Because I think this is a very important question that would maybe clear certain things to all of us. You know, I noticed that the general topic that this discussion and discourse is revolving around today is cultural diversity. So the question that I always wanted to ask at sort of seminars or open talks like this is what is this cultural diversity idea? Like, who is it aimed at? Like, let me rephrase it so that I make myself more clear. For example, I mean, if we're talking about, for example, you know, like Europe, right? So I could, in a way, understand that and accept that because, yes, there could be maybe some tensions, maybe some like sort of like, in one way or another, like cultural shocks between the like the different cultures living there, right? But like, I mean, if this is a seminar dedicated to the Caucasus, specifically if it's like Azerbaijanis and Georgians here, considering the the background that we have, the historical context, the cultural context. I mean, like, what is there to diversify? What is there to diversify between like us? I mean, there are so many like nationalities living in both Azerbaijan and Georgia. There are Azerbaijanis living in Georgia, and there are Georgians living in Azerbaijan, and there is like Sephardic Jews living in Azerbaijan, and there's like a great many ethnic minorities that you might not even heard of that live here. So like, why is the key point here cultural diversity, as opposed to, for example, co-productions that are long awaited between the countries, or some sort of like more, I guess, practical issues than this, in my opinion. Again, I'm like not trying to be assertive here or anything, but this, like, in my opinion, rudimental cliche that was popular in Western Europe like 10 years ago. Like, why is this all revolving around like cultural diversity? I guess this is my question, if I may ask it, of course.
Regurgitation of agenda.
This is a very good question, and this is a very basic definition what we are talking about. Nelly, would you like to react in the first stage?
Я подключусь, потому что как бы инициатива и вообще культурное разнообразие.
The initiative of cultural diversity is the subject that ADAMI works with. And why does this need to be implemented? Not because it's a cliche, and not because we all already know that we are culturally diverse. It's not for this reason. Of course, there are many nationalities, many ethnic groups that live in our countries, but are they in our cinema? Do we see them on TV? Do we talk about their problems? Do we, are they part of the societal discussion? Our cinema, of course, sometimes shows them, but this is more of an exception. They're also citizens of our country, even though they have a different background, different religious and cultural roots, but we rarely see them. There's a lot less of them in the cultural view than there should be. So if we look at the 8 nominees that are going to be represented in our show, there are very many interesting materials. There's a Dagestani woman who's living in an Azerbaijani family in Georgia. This is very interesting. People need to know about it. It's not enough to simply recognize that we have a lot of ethnic groups. No, these people need to be in cinema. They need to sometimes be in leading roles and occupy a visible place in the public view. Why are we meeting on this subject? We're not just talking about diversity in Azerbaijan or Georgia. We have friends, for example, from Austria, Poland is the moderator, from different countries. This is so important that our cinema and our projects need to be not just about Georgians in Georgia, Azeris in Azerbaijan, not just in cinema, in media at large, but cinema is especially important because they reach a wider audience. So I think in cinema, this is particularly interesting, particularly important right now. I apologize for speaking so long. Dorota can add to.
Thank you very much. It is very crucial essence of this answer. I would add more. I used to work as an expert for Creative Europe, which is the program of European Commission for the support of audiovisual industry. And this year, this criterion was introduced for the first time. So when the people are applying for financial support of their projects, film projects in development, festivals, trainings, whatever, they have to fill in how they meet the criterion of cultural diversity and integration and inclusion. And I must say it led to many misunderstandings as it was for the first year introduced. Nelly said about cultural diversity in the content of the films, but this criterion goes further. It concerns also the division in the jobs in the film industry, the gender balance among the film artists and film crews. It concerns also the accessibility of the film towards various groups, ethnic minorities, people who live in remote places, people who cannot move, they are on the wheelchairs, for example, people who cannot hear or see well. So this, and poor people who cannot afford the buying tickets to the cinema. So these all are the groups and the purposes of this criterion called integration and inclusion. For example, in Poland, since shortly, we as producers, when we deliver the film, we have to deliver the audio description as well. So that the people with hearing problems and seeing problems, they can also participate in culture, that they can hear and see the films. Cinemas, they are obliged to have such an architectonical construction that the people on the wheelchair can enter the screening hall. So these are also the elements of this criterion. So it is very broad and somehow unexpected also that we are making films for all members of the society. So.
Yeah, sorry, I just wanted to add like a little bit of a remark. I think that again, I don't know how much, for example, Creative Europe or any other given organization is aware of or integrated into like the processes going on in our neck of the woods. But everything that you have just mentioned, I mean, since our childhood, it's been taught by our parents and by our teachers and by our friends as common decency. So I don't think that, like, again, which is why I was surprised that if this were to be some sort of a, you know, topic in, you know, maybe whatever, any other place, but the Caucasus, then I would be okay. Well, that makes sense. But in my humble opinion, and I'm going to end my speech here, in my humble opinion, like everything that you've mentioned, and I have like, you know, facts to prove this. You can ask like Teymur, for example, or any other given director. I think that in terms of representation, in terms of accessibility, I think that's just like very deeply engraved and enrooted in our tradition. So I really maybe aside from very rare cases, in general, I don't really feel this as an issue. And given that there are a great many other issues that are very important and need to be addressed, but like, you know, diversification, cultural diversification, or accessibility, or in that the soul.
Internet.
Sorry, but I do feel, yeah, I do feel that in general, a platform like this and meetings like these are important at the very least to sort of like, talk and get to know each other and clear on like what are the burning issues that that should be addressed. So
I will tell you one thing, if you allow me to interfere a little bit.
Yes, please.
I think that this is the cultural thing and the underrepresentation topic in general. It's very important, but at the same time, it's quite dangerous as well. Because of course, someone always is underrepresented.
Mm-hmm.
Everywhere. It might be men, women, I don't know, people of color, etc., minorities, this minority, that minority. You can divide it to the bizarre things like, I don't know, gender fluid things, then goes some, or very, little spectrum of nationalities or accent or whatever it is, or even through the blocks or whatever it is. And this is the danger of this topic, because when you talk about it, you always push that you are different and you are underrepresented and you are represented, you are like this, even by trying to solve the problem, or for example, the physically disabled people. Of course, they need to have access to everything, but then you label it and you start talking about it in this way, you see that you all already put that mark upon people. As regard to our topic, I think that cinema allows us to create a medium. It's not a medium, but something that through that medium, you can unite people around it, but not
divide them. Yeah.
That's very important note I have to add. Not by including, like, let's say, people of color or people of that nation or this nation. It is good to include them if it's necessary, but that's not the prerequisite of a good art, of working art, to represent it blatantly. Like, obviously, we have to have 2 women, a couple of gays, or that one or that, because this is the society that they are living in. Then you have to have it like statistically correct in your piece of art. No, in my mind, and this is the idea of cinema as a medium, that you can use it as a tool in order to go down so deep because just imagine the wood, like a trees in a wood, that they are different and they are different scattered around the place. But if you go deep enough, you will see that the roots of them are long enough and they are interfere and they are unite deeply underground. Let's say 10 meters, 20 meters, 50 meters deep. So this is the place, and this is the entire strategy of the pure cinema, is to be able to reach that point where you are beyond the nationality, you're beyond the minority, you're beyond the accents or whatever sexual things that you have in Europe and we have in here, or whatever it is. It doesn't matter anymore, because you basically overwhelm and overpass all the body issues, because the things that divides us, more or less, basically, even all of them relate to the bodies, to the physicalities. Mm-hmm. That's why then you talk about it, you again add up to that physicality by your own physicality right now. It's never-ending process. Even if you want to somehow fix it, you make it worse all the time. That's a perpetual mechanism of destruction. That's the point. Because, and in my mind, cinematically, there is the only one of course, not the only, but one of the biggest and most powerful mediums on earth is cinema. Artistic terms, and then you do it like that, and then you push it, and then if you are lucky enough to get to that ground, to reach that point, then it's gonna work without Any doubt?
I would like to, if I may, just one tiny thing. So I was participating in this fantastic program called Focal Medici. I think it's a mutual friend of ours, or at least an acquaintance of ours, Tamara Tatishvili, who is head of studies there, just a month or a month and a half ago. And it was revolving around more or less the same agenda. Let's put it this way, right? It was revolving more or less around the same themes. So, like, I guess it is a matter of prism, right? It's a matter of how we look at things. Like, say, if I take, you know, this lighter, then we could see it as this, or we could also see it as this, and we could see it as this. So it's a matter on how you look at an issue, right? So for some reason, we are so keen on approaching this issue in terms of, you know, like, well, let's try to have as many, you know, whatever topics, themes, you know, minorities, people, ideas represented as possible. So it's like, it's sort of like the root of fragmentation. Like, let's fragment it more. Oh, so it's like this or this with fragment, and then you take the fragment and then you fragment, and then you take that fragment and you fragment that. And so it's like this disintegration in my humble opinion. Again, I'm just like trying to analyze this and for the sake of this discourse. However, if the true intention behind this idea is not to leave out, or, you know, or to boil down to the most talented, or this meritocratic approach, if you know what I mean, right? So it's like, how do we make sure that the best cinema is represented? Because that's the point. It's like, the point here is not, we're not publicists, we're not journalists, right? It's like, we are people of cinema, which means that, as Teymur said, and I completely agree.
Very expensive medium, by the way.
What's that?
Very expensive medium, by the way.
Yes. So, but it's also one of the forms of art, right? So, like music and, like, you know, architecture, whatever you're named. So, if the whole point boils down to this meritocratic approach where the best piece of cinema is represented, then I think we should completely approach it in a different way, as opposed to being like, oh, let's have, you know, as many fragmented representations as we have in society, because that way tomorrow, of course, you know, you know, an ethnic minority that you have never heard of, for example, living or migrating to Poland, for example, could justly so be like, well, why am I not being represented here? Because, you know, if you're representing everyone, then I should be represented as well. And this is an extra sort of like challenge to try to like squeeze all of that into the same jar. So if we're talking about the meritocratic approach, I think that everything should be completely anonymous. You shouldn't know anything about the author throughout the application process, not the gender, not any sort of like, you know, sexual orientation or you know, or religious. Yeah, I'm back. Sorry. I'm connected to the phone. So I think that it should be completely anonymous. We shouldn't know anything except the pure application, the screenplay or the, you know, the project, and nothing. So you read it and you're like, well, this is potentially a good piece of cinema, so we support it. Or this is not a good piece of cinema, so that we'll leave out, not we, but the selection committee, whatever you name it, right? It leaves out because that's a challenge. That's a challenge that Teymur and any of you know that it's true. There is a certain agenda at different festivals that and we can even boil it down to what kind of festival. For example, some festival is like more keen on supporting like a political statements. Some festival is more keen to supporting this agenda, that agenda, and it's like this Polichinelle's secret that we all know about, but we are so insincere about it that we keep silent about this. It's like, oh no, actually it's all like, oh well, we're talking about this inclusion, blah blah blah. No, I think that if we're looking for the next Tarkovsky or the next Bergman or the next, you name it, Fellini, whoever, if we're looking for pure cinema, then the only criteria that is important is what the artwork is about, not who the author is, or like those ridiculous applications that we have to fill out, you know, saying like which affiliation do we choose this or that. Because I completely agree with Teymur in this sense, that I think that it is that it goes against everything that we are very idealistic about. Because a person who is doing cinema can't help but be idealistic, especially the kind of cinema that we're interested in. You don't really make money, you know, especially in this neck of the woods. It is all about, like, at best you have a chance to go to a festival, screen it once or twice, people applaud and say, oh wow, this is so great to see this film from this part of the world, and then you leave on and you have no sales, you have nothing, because it's a very marginal sort of niche, right? So you have to be idealist to sort of be doing cinema. But
it is a vocation, as you
yes,
said, Teymur.
Yes, but however, if you as a director are so frustrated that your ideas don't really correlate with the agenda of festivals, the only thing that the director has, then directors are forced, and literally forced, they are forced to be like, oh, well, I know that such and such festival is most likely to select if I make a film about, you know, say, a Polish lady living in Azerbaijan who goes to a Catholic church, and it would be interesting. Oh, like a predominantly Muslim country, and there's this Polish lady who goes to a Catholic church, and maybe we should. And so it makes them think stories that would lead them to that festival. So, and it's going away from that deeply enrooted cinema that Teymur has just talked about. So I think that, like, this is the backfire that we have in this whole, you know, in this whole approach. So I've been looking for opportunities actually to talk about this for a very, very long time. And it's good that we're having this conversation, because in my humble opinion, this sort of, I mean, everything is a game, right? I mean, it was Ludwig von Wittgenstein who was talking about the game theory and all of that, right? So in one way or another, we're playing one game at home, and we're playing another game at work, and we're playing the third game when making a film. So this game, this approach that, in my humble opinion, you know, Europe, I would say in a collective sense, sort of like has been experimenting with, I don't think that it is giving the results that were hoped for, because I think that it leads to it leads to a very different dynamic in the cinema industry, especially now with COVID, with Netflix, with everything, when the whole logic of cinema watching is changing. I mean, pushing the same button that was being pushed 10 or 15 years ago, I think it's counterintuitive. So that's all, I guess, that I wanted to say for now.
Oh, no, you have touched so many important points that I think we have to come back to some of them. First of all, yes, we have here a conflict of ideas, because art is a hierarchy. It is not, art cannot be democratic. Because the best has to have a priority, right? It is what you call the meritocratic approach. of course, art is based on it, but the society and the industry, the organization of industry, and this is where these democratic ideas apply. And when we are talking about this representation of minorities, it is only to some extent it goes with the creation of art, and this is very obvious, and we have to agree. But still, when we organize the film industry, we have to think about the whole society to apply these democratic ideas. So somehow it is the constant tension, and then the best art can be created. Also, what Teymur said, I think you touched the important moment of art, universality. That any story coming deeply from the local place, from the local story, deeply rooted in local culture, can has a universal meaning, because we are all people, and this is what is the best in art to achieve this universality. Let's say Abbas Kiarostami from Iran, and his art is above all political changes that this country went through, and is a good example of such a universality, and of course many other names. So I think these are this democratic and hierarchic approach to cinematography are just two ways that we have to somehow to observe.
Deal with that.
And I would also go back to what you said about evaluation of projects. Probably you are dealing with it in your film department. So it is always a problem how to judge the film projects. I would like to share some experience and eternal discussion how to do it in the best way. In the music competitions, they have the hearings without knowing who is playing. This is possible in the music world, but I think in film not, because the film is very expensive. A big money has to be put at risk. And the name and the achievement of the artist is the guarantee for the result. It is the only guarantee, actually, because you know the script written even it is not a guarantee that that the film directed by one director will be as good as the film directed by another director. So we cannot be anonymous in judging it. But it is a question which criteria we take into account. And here we can come back to some of these democratic criteria, let's say, and not to be in conflict with, let's say, exploring our own culture, because you both said that you came back to Azerbaijan because this is what inspires you. This is where your roots are. And certainly it can be, and it usually it is the power for creation. So this is how I wanted to comment on all these topics. Do you want to add something, Nelly?
Нет, в данном случае я слушаю вас.
You know, in this case, I'm just listening and enjoying the discussion. Thank you.
Okay. If we have answered this question, or maybe you want to add something, Teymur, would you like to add something on?
No, I basically agree with the point that it has to be the right balance should be found, because when it's not sincere and it go too much to bureaucracy is important and is needed, but to the certain extent. When it's useful, then it really serves its purpose and it does something. But if it goes too much, and it's all the conjuncture and everything is has been done for in order to make a report, to show the papers that we've done this, we've done that, then it's not interesting and it's not gonna produce any true art at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. That's why one has to be very, very careful in order not to ruin the spirit of the true artist, and not by pushing too much, not by imposing too many criteria or making it, because it's very hard, because how can you rationalize irrational?
Yes.
How can you verbalize non-verbal? That's the point, and that's the hardest thing to do. And the only thing I can say that I'm just trying to hope that we are going to be able to find that balance and be as productive as possible in our country at least. But in Europe, I don't know, but I see that you have the best practices basically in different countries. It's different, and somehow they can balance it, and still they are trying to do something despite all the hardships that is everywhere.
Unfortunately or fortunately, we have to deal with bureaucracy, with administration in financing the films in Europe. Why? Because in Europe, filmmaking is a matter of cultural heritage. And we are all small countries with small industries, and the films are extremely expensive. And I don't know if you know the statistics that the 80%, or I will say the statistics in Poland, which are more or less like in other countries, that 80% of films in the cinemas, these are American films. Another 10% are so-called local films, and another 10 others. So in local films would be the films produced in Poland, and another 10% maybe films produced in Azerbaijan, although I never have seen an Azerbaijani film in Poland, and some other nationalities. So the industry is heavily dominated by American industry, and there are major studios that you probably well know, 6 in the world, operating with billions of dollars, and local industries are not capable to survive without the public state support. So European Union has an official policy of how to support the audiovisual industry, and the big budget is allocated for this reason. And every country has a budget, has a law how to finance the local cinematography. And there are national film centers, national film institutes, different bodies in every country, practically. So I can say that in Poland, such a cinematographic law was introduced in 2010. And since that time, the industry is developing. And there is the real budget and the real source of financing, which is crucial for the national film production. And also it is enabling the producers to enter the co-productions with other countries. So to apply to national film funds or regional film funds or European Union, Creative Europe, a lot of papers is needed. And this is also a point of discussion. And that this, how to make it less and how to make it more fair, not to kill the creative spirit, and apply the democratic criteria as well. This is a constant, I would say, challenging these two sides. But at this moment, I would like to ask how the financing of national film production is organized in Azerbaijan, and how it is going to be developed. As I understood now, it is at the Ministry of Culture.
That's correct. So, as I said, we inherited a certain system that was that was being implemented in the Soviet Union. So the system was basically more or less, it boiled down to the government, commissioning or sponsoring, if you may, 100% of the financing through government-owned studios. So, because for the longest time, the private sector wasn't able to tap into that financial resource, that of course had a rather negative effect on the cinema landscape in general. So ever since we started working at the Ministry of Culture, first, of course, we analyzed the situation, collected data, and so the algorithm that we have in place is probably, not going to be surprising to you. It's the establishment of a national film agency, the Azerbaijani Film Agency, which would sort of, in a way, replace the function of the cinema department within the Ministry of Culture, because our cinema department is a department, pardon this sort of tautology. Establishment of an agency which would be a in one way or another, a PPP, a public-private partnership. Mm-hmm. So it would, on the one hand, ease the bureaucracy that, of course, yes, and on the other hand, it would enable us to set up and implement the most, up-to-date sort of methodology of financing film projects, which would probably not be too different from what most of European countries have, starting from, CNC and up to the various film institutes or funds. It would basically mean that all the financial flow, or rather all the finances that are being
come back. We have a break. Oh, you are back.
Yeah, sorry. So meaning that the annual budget for cinema would be sort of it would be so this national film agency would be in charge of distributing it on a on the basis of open calls that would take place once every 3 months. So it would be a quarterly sort of open call. And it would involve obviously fiction films and documentaries and animations and TV series and work in progress, post-production support, pre-production support, just any given sort of system that is already out there in most of
this system works in many countries, so it's, I think, efficient.
Yes, it's nothing. We're not really inventing anything new. We're just trying to sort of gather all the positive experiences out there and try to implement it here. And I think it is we're actually privileged and lucky to have this, because we can learn from the best experiences and avoid mistakes. So more or less, that is how things are going to be set up. So the agency is actually coming. This whole launch of the agency is coming to its logical conclusion, meaning that it should be launched hopefully anytime now. We've been working on it for the past year and 3 months, ever since we came to the ministry. And we even tried to do a beta version, like a demo version of this open call. We had an open call for short films, and Teymur was actually the jury. So it was an independent jury that with no representatives from the Ministry of Culture. It was a 3-stage sort of open call. The third one was a pitching. It was being broadcast live, like on YouTube. So I think overall it was a positive experience. Of course, it's a zero-sum game. So some people were happy, some people were unhappy, but I think that is sort of the way it was an expected reaction, considering that it was the first ever pitching session in Azerbaijan. So.
And how do you think about it, Teymur? Are you happy that the agency will appear in Azerbaijan and you will be able to get financing for your films? I can't hear you. Yes.
Of course, we're all hoping that the new body will help us to achieve our goals. Because yes, current situation and current system of financing is obsolete. It's very old, and it's not meant to function in this society, like in this ever-changing reality that we are living. It's very awkward, and it's not flexible, etc., etc., etc. So. Of course, and the pitching was actually, yes, it was fair pitching and fair competition. And I just want to say that we need more. We need more the competitions. We need more. It's not like a quantitative, but in terms of quality as well, because. The communication, the interaction between the governmental body and the artist is always very tricky, because you have to somehow handle abstract things, but giving away the money, which are countable things, and you get back something that is, you don't know what it is. It's not like you are buying 100 cars to ship, and etc., etc., etc. It's more like a very diplomatic and very, very thin game, actually. But of course, the dialogue had started, And from my side, personally, if I'm representing independent filmmakers here, I would say that the general thought is that, yes, we are looking positive to the new changes, and but it's always like that. You want more. It's a human condition, right? Human general, how to name it? General
nature.
Yeah, nature, or inside, within. I don't know how to say. It is the most human thing, probably, that you want more. You want better, of course, and the best thing will be for the ministry in this case, and for the entire government, because it's not only the Ministry of Culture that has to change, but other financial things has to be in line in order this scheme works smoothly. I just will probably, reveal my hope, yes, is to have it more and more fruitful and more flexible, more interesting, and so on. And from our side, I can see that we have the huge potential to bring that new reality, to show and to present some new things that will basically make some sound even in Europe as well.
Certainly. I would like to ask about your attitude, Mr. Hasanov, towards co-production. Are they included in the plans for the National Film Agency?
Of course. In fact, we launched four feature films this year, and all four of them are co-productions, three of them being international co-productions. I believe it's one with France, one with Turkey, and another one, I forgot, so I don't want to give incorrect information. But again, as I said, so yes, however, in order for this cinema sort of landscape or organism to function properly, this environment, just like you mentioned the major studios in the US, I firmly believe that the sort of right algorithm is to sort of have local major studios that would come to light. And in order to do that, it boils down to stimulating the stakeholders that are out there already, giving them more opportunity for them to strengthen and to evolve, and have 4 or 5 local major studios that would be headhunting, that directors like myself or Teymur or whoever else could approach with their projects, and they in their turn would apply to these open calls, and grow. So and in order to do that, answering your question about co-productions, for example, there's a very interesting case that I have been sort of trying to find the best way of dealing with it. There is a Russian-Georgian co-production already by a good friend of mine, a Georgian filmmaker, or a Russian filmmaker of Georgian descent. And there is already funding in place from Russia and from Georgia. And so they want to have a joint co-production with Azerbaijan as well. And they want to shoot part of the film in Azerbaijan. So, for example, the best advice I could give to them is that, hey, we're about to launch, we're about to have an open call. So find a production company in Azerbaijan that would apply, that would hopefully, you know, get some government financing. And then it could be a proper co-production between these these three countries. And so that's the best thing we could come up with. And I think that's about to happen. I mean, at the very least, they are going to apply with this project.
Yeah, this is how it happens in Europe, and it is very convenient way. I remember when I was in Baku, we visited the artistic department of the State University, and we have had a very interesting discussion, screening and discussion, and the will to cooperate was clearly expressed, but we couldn't find how to do it, who would be the partner. And so this, what you say, would solve the problem. And so that's very interesting. And another subject that I would like to know how you are going to deal with as an agency is festivals. I have been to the Doku Baku festival at the very beginning of this initiative, and I have checked how many festivals are in Azerbaijan, and it strikes me that they are very little for 9 million inhabitants.
10 million.
10 million, sorry. The internet doesn't, no, it's not actual enough. But I have found Baku International Short Film Festival.
Correct.
Touristic International Film Festival, and Doku Baku. And
there is also Anima Film, which is taking place actually as we speak, for the 5th time in a row. So it's a festival of it's a international festival of animation films. There is also a young festival called Seville. It's a festival for films that are made for and by women. So that's another festival that we have. Doku Baku you mentioned. And we're actually, at the moment, we're working on a rather ambitious regional film festival. So it might be a little too early to talk about it in detail, but we are planning a rather ambitious project. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
I see that you see the field to fill in with the festivals in Azerbaijan.
I would say that other than feature films, most spheres are represented. There is a documentary film festival. There is an animation film festival. There are several, you know, a tourism films festival, and there are several film festivals that are quite niche, like the one that I just mentioned, that is, you know, has to do more with, like, you know, gender issues and what's not. But so I would say that the only niche that is free, and it has been going on for 11 years in a row. There was a film festival in Azerbaijan that was an international film festival called East West. But I think that it just, you know, there always comes a time where you need to sort of like renew and reconceptualize things. So that's the process that we're going through.
And the agency is going to support the festivals also via the open calls. How you think it's, or it will be partially organized by the state or Ministry of Culture?
Again, it might be a little too early to talk about that. For example, with smaller film festivals that you just mentioned, the ministry is supporting practically every single one of them, practically. The Baku International Short Film Festival, which just finished and was the 12th edition. It just finished 2 days ago. So we support that. We support Anima Film. We are trying very hard to support Doku Baku and to support even more. But again, as you said, they're rather small niche festivals. But for something big and ambitious, I think that because it requires a very serious approach, because it's, again, as I said, it's a rather vast project. I believe that probably in one way or another, it is going to be also a PPP, and we probably would have, at least on the initial stage, have some involvement in terms of like logistics and administrating and organizing and just helping out, sharing our experience that we already have.
Mm-hmm. Azerbaijan is a member of European Council, so it can take part in the European Film Fund called ADAMI.
No, we can't yet. There is an well, yes, in theory it's possible, but I recently had a meeting with I believe already the ex-president of Euromage, the CEO Roberto Olo, and we did talk about Azerbaijan's membership in Euromage, and obviously the first and utmost step that needs to be taken is the establishment of a national film center or agency. So we can talk about it after the agency is sort of established. Yes.
This agency would be a partner for many international activities. That's for sure. Also, and this I don't know. Is Azerbaijan part of Creative Europe?
Also not yet, I believe, and that also has to, again, most of these initiatives, most of these sort of like international organizations, they require the right infrastructure, up-to-date infrastructure, and so because of all these quite objective, in my opinion, reasons, historical reasons and socio-political reasons, and again, I don't want to repeat this over and over again, but the moving away from planned economy towards market economy and setting the right infrastructure and setting the right sort of legislature for these specific areas. I think that once that is taken care of, Creative Europe or Euromage or European Film Observatory or any other international organization becoming a member of it shouldn't be much of an issue, in my humble opinion.
So we are really meeting in a historical moment. I have to put some light on because the sun is setting in like Jeff.
Yes, and we are now preparing to, yes, it is a historical moment, and of course we are at the stage of, it's very important part of the history that now it's going to be decided what would be the yes, I'm coming the main way of the Azerbaijani cinema will go. Basically, either we go through the civilized, modern way of having all those flexible institutions, etc., or we still go the guerrilla type of things. But I truly hope that we're going to prevail and the proper ideas will thrive, and we be able to, at least comparable to the size of our country, to build up the proper industry. And we have people, we have talents to be supported. So I hope that it, and everything, and that's, I was saying that to Rufat privately, that you just, it's a huge burden you are, got for yourself, because everybody's watching and with hope. And there is nothing worse than to break a hope of someone, because then that hope immediately turns to the hatred, just like this. Because the huge hope is in the country, is in the cultural sector, that finally we are, we are going to be able to work properly, to have access to the bodies you'd mentioned, to have access to more or less fair distribution of funds, to everything basically. So that's why, yes, I'm hopeful as well.
And you are the living proof of the active talent filmmakers. And I also observe since some time at international workshops that the young Azerbaijani filmmakers are looking for international support, and they come with interesting ideas from Azerbaijan. So certainly the movement is there. That's it reached me as well. So
yes, we hope that if we will have the burst, and yes, it depends, of course, on that background, on the infrastructure that is going to be built next year, basically, next couple of years at least. Yeah.
So there is, it reminds me that last year in Warsaw we had a delegation of the filmmakers and also people from Ministry of Culture from Uzbekistan, who is also going to restructure their post-Soviet film industry, and it was a very interesting meeting, and they traveled around Poland, seeing the film schools and the film institute universities. Obviously, looking for this for the inspiration. Yeah, I think. Then when this historical moment passes by successfully and there is agency, we can meet again and talk about the
talk numbers. Yes,
the good successes and some good statistics, because it looks like it is a perfect moment for it.
I see a question from one of the participants saying that it is her dream to become a well-known filmmaker, which is why Ulvia is studying in Tbilisi. And her question is that, what does a person have to do to become a filmmaker? Well, there are only two things, I guess, that I could say about this. The first one is you shouldn't want to become a well-known filmmaker, because I think that there is like this ongoing, everlasting struggle between you as an artist and you as an, and you and your ego. So I believe that you should just want to become a filmmaker so drop the well-known part. And the second thing that I could say is that in order to become a filmmaker, I think you have to write a script and then take a camera and a few of your friends who could be actors and shoot your first film.
Or I would add also that you can find an interesting subject and start to shoot a documentary, even with your phone.
Yeah.
and have your own expression. When I was in Baku, I was also impressed by the artistic department of the State University, with a lot of brilliant people, very interesting discussion, and open-minded students and tutors. So I think it is also a way to reach the craft of the filmmaker. And because I agree with you, first you have to be a professional, and then maybe you will have success and fame and etc. etc.
And sorry, and to add to what you just said, I can see one of my students is actually here. I'm also teaching at the very university that you just mentioned, the University of Arts and Culture in Baku.
Mm-hmm.
And I have seven students. All of them are brilliant with a whole lot of potential. And actually, we're about to meet in 2 days to discuss their first student films, the shooting process so just to add to what you just said, I think and to what Teymur said, there is a whole lot of potential and talent.
I don't believe in universities regarding art.
Well, I think I think that's also you see Teymur is very like romantic about certain ideas, like I think he in a very latent way, he takes great pride in the fact that he didn't have a formal cinema education, and that's understandable, like
because I don't have it, that's why.
Probably, and there are a lot of cases, like one of my favorite modern contemporary filmmakers, Carlos Reigadas, doesn't really have a formal education as well. I think he comes from like a journalist or a photo background, something like a photographer background, something like that. So yes, on the one hand, it doesn't really matter. But on the other hand, I think there are definite upsides and definite advantages of getting an education at the very least, because it's easier to achieve something when you have a guide, when you have a mentor, when you have an authority, and in a good sense of the word. Like, I will forever be grateful to my teachers although I didn't really go to film school. Well, I did, but my first education is directing for theater, and most of my teachers were theater, directors. And I mean, I will be forever grateful to them for sort of like guiding me through and showing me the right sort of plays and films and music. So in that sense, I believe that having someone who would guide you is sort of important.
I totally agree, and I would add that the workshops are also a very good way to start to be professional, and many workshops are organized. And
would you excuse me that I have to leave with a friend of mine who is basically mentoring me right now regarding the script, so I have to take you to the restaurant. This is the reality of putting people to work for you. That's besides the general theory and good things. So I have to leave, but that was a really good conversation that we have, and I wish we had more time. But I'm fair that I've been more. That's going to be 40 minutes, but it's now hour and a half.
Extending it because of the questions now, but we have
it's very interesting
subject, I think, sufficiently. So you are excused.
Thank you very much. See you.
See you.
See you very soon, I hope.
At this small market, we will certainly meet.
Yes.
I have a little bit of a thing to add before I.
And what?
Yes, but we can't hear you.
No.
Yeah, sorry.
No.
I'm reading this chat,
Mm-hmm.
and I saw Parvana Rahimova saying something quite important and something that I also probably would disagree. So both. So she said, you have to be patient and ambitious to become a good maker and to apply to workshops, like the one phrase is organized by the ADAMI Media Prize. Unfortunately, there are less opportunities for independent filmmakers, especially who are women in my lovely country. So the first part I definitely agree with, because workshops, there are ongoing workshops on an annual basis all over the region and all over the world. Again, you know, there are workshops that are being organized by, say, independent stakeholders like Dokubaku or Anima Film. And there are workshops that are being commissioned by the government, like, for example, debut film studios, workshops that you can find on Debuts, for example, Instagram page, if you type in debut film studios. So I would disagree with the second part, because I don't believe, again, that your affinity or affiliation with any sort of, you know, fragmentation that we talked about, like being a woman or a man, or being young or old, or being, you know, black or white, has to do anything with you becoming a filmmaker or getting more opportunities, specifically for you, Parvana, and for anyone who can hear me right now. As I said, there are plenty of opportunities on you know, on annual basis, more than an annual basis, on a quarterly basis.
Yes.
On a quarterly basis, that the Ministry of Culture at this point is has been launching and is launching. For example, in less than a week, hopefully, there is going to be an open call with a rather substantial fund. So if you are truly interested in making a film, or getting production support, or co-production support, or pre-production support, or development support, or work in progress support, do apply to the open call and try to sort of read you know, about all these opportunities on social media, in the news, because there's nothing easier than sort of what is the word I'm looking for? See, this means that we should wrap this soon, because my brain is getting slower. Then constructive, than non-constructive sort of accusations of not enough opportunities. I think there are plenty of opportunities. Like every single film festival that is happening in Azerbaijan has workshops as part of the site program. The Ministry of Culture is organizing workshops. There are NGOs that are organizing workshops. British Council has been organizing workshops that I think are being launched like right now. Anima Film, that is currently in one of the smaller cities in Azerbaijan, in Shaki, is launching a workshop. So I think it's a matter of really following the news and social media.
Thank you for this answer. And I think we are coming to the end of our discussion, and we have tackled the hot subject of cultural integrity and inclusion in the film industry. And we met in the very historical moment. So I would say let's meet again after some time, then we can discuss how it goes.
Yeah, I think that it would be fair to maybe meet up a year later and see what has been achieved throughout the year. So there you go.
Очень хорошая идея. Встретимся через год.
Wonderful idea. Let's meet in a year in the same place.
Мы бы очень этого хотели, потому что если
We would
честно,
really like to, because to be honest, this virtual reality, I apologize for this play on words, but we're tired of this virtual reality. Yes, I agree. So let's meet in actual reality in a year. Let's see where we can hold this.
Встречаемся в Тбилиси офлайн.
Thank you.
yes,
so much.
bye,
Bye.
bye.
Спасибо. До свидания. До свидания.